was living a lie. In the darkness, I was scared of the light. With no direction, I was running away. Step aside, enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride.
We're going to phase into looking at a session with a couple who are working toward creating a step family. These parties have been married before. This is not new. They're not like this newly engaged young couple. And I thought it might be good to look at how the facilitator works with them with this same tool. And then we're also going to look at a devitalized couple who are really are a good example of some of the ones that I've had in the past, where every statement that's made almost has to be, okay, well, we need to redirect that, and we need to redirect, and how the kind of patience that's required in working with a really devitalized toxic couple. We have to understand what we're taking on. I don't stand up here and say, oh, we can just rescue all these couples and make marriage great again. Make America great. We'll make marriage great again. We I mean, just a hat that says that. That's be great, right? Yeah. I mean, we can't treat this as though it's some simple thing. It's enough that we believe it's worth it, but it is going to be work. And we have to be looking at really what's entailed. This is not an easy thing to wade into. Where if a couple's gotten into a really hard place where every word and gesture is toxic, I mean, sometimes you have to start, and it's very small steps. And we're gonna see in some of the last videos today, you're gonna notice how the facilitator, you can see that he intentionally looks for any little good sign of progress, to name it. Okay? Because if you don't, it's easy for couples who are really in a bad place to feel like this is never going to get better, and they lose motivation to even work at it anymore. So I mean, there's some skill pieces as to working with really highly conflicted couples that are kind of needed and important. So we'll look at this step family couple and see what we can glean from this. Let's just look at what the facilitator, the things the facilitator is doing to help kind of work this conversation through, and we'll talk about what we see after, okay?
Next, we're going to watch Dr. Turvey as he helps a couple, Mitch and Thomasina, work through some of the exercises in their couples workbook that are designed to help them establish realistic expectations as they form a step family. Both Mitch and Thomasina have been married before, and each will be bringing 2 children to the upcoming marriage, with the children's ages ranging from 9 to 17. Let's join Dr. Turvey as he discusses realistic expectations with Mitch and Thomasina.
We're talking about choosing realistic expectations for the step family that you guys are going to create. So each had the chance to kind of go through there and look at some of that stuff and some of the myths versus realities and those expectations. Thomasina, why don't you take the lead here and maybe tell me one of the things from this page, this exercise, that really struck you, and maybe what you thought about that, and we'll unpack that, maybe what you thought that would mean for, some frustration, disappointment, if that's going to work for you, or just
right.
How that works.
Well, I can say that 2 of them really stuck out for me particularly, and one of them was the bonding with children and being able to sort of step in and kind of take over as the parent, the mom in this case. And I guess I had some misconceptions about that. I was hoping it would go a little smoother.
Okay.
And there have been a few little nuts and bolts that have happened along the way with just trying to introduce some sort of routine with Leah and David.
Okay.
So,
in what ways? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, my girls, they're so used to me and how we kind of function through our day.
They have a different rhythm. You know,
Yeah.
their
Okay.
day is set up a little bit different than, like for me, with my children, especially with David being a little bit older, he's kind of on his own. And so
Okay.
there's less of that one-on-one there
Right.
than,
And I'm trying to include Leah into more things that we do, not just fun things like going shopping and stuff, but everyday routine stuff, because I know we're going to be, you know, moving in fairly soon together, and I don't want it to be such a clash if there is anything. I'm
Right.
kind of trying to slowly incorporate things, and I thought it would be a smoother transition. And I'm getting a little bit of
resistance.
resistance.
Was there another one on there, Thomasina, that kind of struck you?
I know I had mentioned, you know, just being able to easily form a new family. I certainly wasn't thinking that the day we get married, everybody's going to move in together,
Yep.
and it's just going to kick off from there. But I just did think it would be a little bit easier than how it's been going. I thought, you know, over the next couple of months, you know, they've spent a lot more time at our house, at my house with my girls, or vice versa. You know, we've had sleepovers, with, you know, and really thinking that it would be more fun.
Feels a little bit awkward at first, it sounds like.
It was more awkward than I thought, but
Right.
you know, I've just kind of had to be really open and listen more than talk. I thought maybe I'll just go in and, you know, talk more like the mom, and things would fall into place somehow. But I think I've just had to be more aware of being more open and listening.
Definitely. Mitch, what about you? What are one of those expectations that kind of struck you that you think may have led us to?
Kind of falling into that, I thought it would be, because we love each other and we met and you know, we have that for ourselves. It was odd to me that everybody else around us didn't love each other automatically. I mean, you know, that seemed, I thought that would come a little more automatically.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was a little jarred when it wasn't what I expected it to be in the
Yeah.
beginning. And so we've had to work at that.
Because you guys have been dating about 3 years,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay. And so I'm assuming in the beginning, the kids kind of weren't really involved. It was just you two maybe.
Yes, on purpose.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
right. We
That was
didn't
our
really
desire.
introduce them to each other or tell them that we were serious until we were pretty serious.
Yeah.
About a
We
year and
knew
a half,
that we
yeah.
were moving in
Okay.
a direction that was going to result in a family.
Yeah, and I really respected that we both kind of thought the same about that.
Very much so.
So you're on the same
Kids out,
page.
I mean, I think that I didn't expect as much resentment or anger on their part, I guess.
Yeah.
In seeing that we really had found someone.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it was one of those moments where you go, okay, can't you see how happy we are?
Yeah, or
And
this will
wanting them
pass
to
in a
be-
day or two.
Yeah,
Right.
and it didn't.
Right.
And there were a lot of questions. There were a lot of questions that were asked of us. You know, why? Why is this so important to you? Why do we have to? And answering those questions, we had to really look at our relationship and go, okay, why are we doing this? Is this the
Right.
right thing to do? And
It helped us a lot.
yeah,
It helped us a
when you
lot,
got to answer
yeah.
questions from kids, you will learn.
Yeah, and
That's
I think
true.
it brought us closer.
Absolutely.
And then, I mean, I sort of welcome the challenge of working through this together.
Yeah.
You know, it has certainly made us closer.
Very much. It's been tough for my son because he's always been close to my ex-wife, his mother, and there was a lot of resistance of bringing another person into my life. But for my daughter, she's kind of welcomed the idea of
Okay.
having sisters.
Yeah.
She's grown up with a brother and an older brother.
Ready for a
And so-
change, huh?
yeah. But having sisters, but that also brings challenges.
Right.
You know, Tony is the same age, and
They're both
Jean,
12.
yeah, 12-year-old girls. That's a whole nother world.
All right, what did you notice there?
Are they just actors,
Well, yeah, they are, but they're
willing participants?
well, yeah, they're very into and educated into those roles, so they do a really good job, but yeah, they are not actual couples.
Okay, that's why I didn't need to do that. Oh, no, I did.
But observations though, what, is this anything that you guys have heard before? Anybody have experience working with couples like in this stage? What, does that look realistic?
I was thinking when we were talking about merging families, there's a few dynamics that stand out in the drama triangle that you're too hard on my son, you're too hard on my daughter, and there's that rescue thing. Then there are the kids that are resisting very actively the relationship, which make it hard too. So some step families have such a hard time blending because there's all this interference, there's this protection, the drama triangles, and there are a few that get along very well. I mean, some families can do it, but the amount of unconscious resistance by all people is pretty huge.
Yeah, one of the couples that I did premarital counseling with, and it's one of the few that went through the premarital program that their marriage didn't make it, was a step family. And it really, I had contact with them after the marriage, after the wedding, and it really centered around the difficulty of the parent-child relationship being pitted against the marriage. Because there's an awareness with parents who are in that situation that the kid didn't choose this. I mean, this is on me. And so because that's true, I owe my kid, a lot. And when you carry that into a new marriage, how is that marriage ever going to have the number one slot in your relationship priorities if you have this relational debt you're bringing into it to the child, who, once they perceive that kind of power, especially once they become a teenager, is liable to use it, and they're not going to feel guilty about breaking up your marriage oftentimes. And that's a very tough dynamic. And I think it's part of the reason why statistically subsequent marriages have a higher divorce rate than first marriages.
And there's one other thing, is the other parent sometimes dominates the one family. The one parent won't bring the child back on time. Right. They're flexible, and one of the spouses will say, "We are always adjusting," because they don't want to hurt the child. They don't want to create conflict. Right. So the spouse deals with all the fallout of, okay, we're not going to the lake this weekend. We have to do this. Always changing, and after a while, they just feel hostility towards this remote parent.
Yeah. And one of the things we deal with in a mediation context is that the spouse of the parent coming in is not allowed in the mediation because they're not a party, right? Most of the time that's probably good, because there are a lot of situations where the parent has never really taken full responsibility to be the parent, and has always said, well, my significant other, they can handle that, or they can do the parenting. But on the other hand, if you're trying to form a marriage and a family, and that spouse is like not allowed in a conversation about how to resolve something that's going to affect them, that can be really hard to deal with and respond to.
There's one more dilemma I see, is that when there are children, one set of parents will be pretty responsible for homework and having the kids do it. Yep. The other one's just a slide by, so then they get all the homework from what's not been done, and it's an uneven load.
Yeah. Yep, that's for sure.
Bob, the one thing that I was really that I just observed watching that video was how the couple, they're good. Life's good, right? Life's really good. They're happy. They're in love. Things are going great. Why wouldn't all the kids be happy for us? I believe that happens so much.
Or the extended family.
Or extended family. Yeah. But anyhow, not taking into consideration, just because they're on cloud number 9 doesn't mean everybody is on cloud number 9 with them, and just not taking into consideration the kids' feelings. And the reality is they still probably most cases just want to be life to be back to normal, and with their mom and dad, or unless it was an abusive situation or something that was really, really bad. I understand that, but it's just really taking into consideration the kids, and it's a process for everyone. Everyone doesn't go through the same process of getting to that happy place. And that couple was just a couple. I believe that happens a lot, that they're just, well, they're so happy. Well, why isn't everybody else? And they just need to like sit back and realize it's a process for kids and other family members, like you said. That's all. I just really saw that. I believe that probably happens a lot. Yeah.
The euphoria that engaged couples have in the first marriage and they're young, everybody's like, oh, isn't that cute? It's wonderful. And we know that's not, they're going to have to get down to the tough stuff of new life together. But when in a subsequent marriage, it's like you got kids and the other things that people are relying on you. It's not so cute. It just isn't as cute anymore. Your kids don't dismiss it and go, oh, they're just, oh yeah, we got to just take care of them because they're just in love. I mean, your kids aren't going to do that. That's not their role. And it can feel like one of those role reversal situations where, now my mom or dad is kind of checked out because they're in this relationship and now I got to just carry the load. And kids feel that and they react to it. So, I mean, there's a lot of tough things about, the step family stuff. But I think part of it is recognizing the cost of transitions, even though, there is some euphoria in a new relationship and all that. I think, as a facilitator, I think one of the helpful things we can do is to just help them have a dialogue about the real cost of this transition and how to, accommodate those other relationships that they don't want to, make them go away. That we need to recognize they're there. Even in when do we talk to our kids about this relationship? They waited, maybe too long, so that by the time they were even talking about their kids, it was a done deal and we're almost married. That alone can trigger resentment in kids, right? So it's like, how do you bring these, if we're going to have relationships with people that are lifelong, over-managing them can be very hazardous, so that's just one of the pieces. But let's, go ahead.
I found eye contact helps a lot. When you get people to look at each other, they start connecting.
Yep.
And even if it's painful, it kind of moves past that.
Yeah.
It's just that connection.
Yeah. That's part of it, because it's hard to look in someone's eyes and not recognize emotion. And sometimes when we're used to the emotion being some kind of a, indictment against us, then we don't want to see it, right? So that can be the avoidance there.
It's about the communicating. It's not about the solving the problem. Right. It's how do we talk about it.
Perhaps the most basic need in order to have a relationship with someone is a sense of value. I mean, our attention, our time, and our money define what is of value to us. And to give attention to somebody is not just to be in the same room with them, but to understand, what's going on in their heart, in their mind, in their, what do they care about, how are they feeling, and that is mostly perceived non-verbally. Right? I mean, it's body language, it's eye contact, it's gestures, it's tone of voice. Those things convey more meaning than words. And so when a couple the relationship has become so isolated that they can't give even attention to one another, then the problems are never going to be solved because there's not enough investment in the other person anymore. And so the communication has to start by laying a new groundwork for saying, you know what, you matter. Whatever the problem is, you matter. You matter. What else did you guys see? Did you notice?
the facilitator kept them on track, it would be easy to go meander off in different directions and talk about all of the other challenges that exist within that conversation. And I think it would be hard for me to do, but I like the structure. That's when I like a toolbox, actually. Don't typically like everything, but one of my challenges often is to kind of meander, I guess. I tend to want to go with the flow of the conversation, which could take it off point.
So here it's kind of a self-application point here, and we're going to do some role play right now in a minute, but how comfortable do you feel working with high conflict, distressed couples? And at what point would you make a referral? Okay, anywhere from that confidant, first responder situation where someone's coming with their problems, and what would trigger you to say, I think it'd be good for you to call this person? How would you decide when to do that?
I think when these people were following the rules, they were following the structure. Some people are it's a cat fight.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't get through that, then you might as well just refer them on.
Yeah. Where would their next step be, do you think, if that were the case?
Probably divorce court. But see them, being seen individually. I would divide the people as a psychologist because there's a lot of anger, and she laughed, so there's something behind that.
Yeah. Right.
And she knew more. So you'd have to find out, resolve some of those things if they wanted to get through it. First, yeah. So anyway, I'd just refer them on.
Yeah.
Just a point, would you, a little more definition on the word caucus? You have said that now a couple of times. Would you kind of just give a little more context to that?
Sure. Yeah, caucus is a term of art that's used in mediation, ADR. It just means meet separately with the parties. And you go back and forth. It adds to the time of the process quite a bit. The disadvantage is that they're both not hearing the same thing. It's hard. The mediator becomes the sole interpreter of the other party's statements, wants, desires to the other one, which when it's highly toxic like this can be an advantage in the way because there's information that they both need from each other, but the delivery blows it up every time they try to communicate. So it can at least, but that's caucusing. It just means meeting separately.
So it's to just suggest, let's talk about this separately, and then to figure out how to get them back together and back into the room again?
Well, I think with this couple, and maybe, give your feedback, but I think that the healing process, even for them to feel like they're safe enough to be honest and not get attacked, it might require some work here before they would be ready to try it again. Now, they got through it. If they could come and pick up and make progress from there again, maybe they'd be okay. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think you said it correctly. You're an interpreter, because somebody could say it with intention in their voice, and you'd say, "Do you really love him?" "Yes, I do." But there's a whine or a dart thrown first, so they don't hear that.
Right.
So you're saying they're committed. Where are you?
Mm-hmm.
And so when they hear that, then their defenses can come down. But I just feel like it's an interpretation, and sometimes people are so hostile, you've got to work through that process of forgiveness and hurt, and that they're okay, and do they want to? Do they want to forgive? That's their choice. It's not something I can do or force, and it's their time.
Yeah. Something also I see and to be aware of is that there are couples who can go actually through a nasty divorce and still not leave each other alone, because it's part of their addiction is the drama that they create between the two of them. It's almost a strange thing. It's like the enmeshment itself is like an addiction. they can't leave each other alone, even though it's toxic, even though it costs them every time. I mean, it's a weird deal. But I've seen it. I've had clients engaged in this, and it's like, so the fact that they're willing to get together does not indicate that they necessarily want out of that drama. And so that's another thing that you need to find out as a facilitator is, and maybe that's usually something best discerned separately. And to have an honest conversation. Do you want out of this, or are you okay staying in this dance? Okay, I mean that's kind of it's got to be an honestly answered question before you want to put more time in. That's actually, are you going to really help this couple, or are you going to become part of the drama?
Are you saying out of their marriage, or out of the mediation process?
Out of the relationship, yeah. I mean, or do they want out of the dance? Okay, if they want to change how their relationship functions, if they're really both want to, because if they both don't, then you've got no business trying to fix that. You can't take responsibility for the want. That's totally out of place.
So really the question then is, do you want to move forward?
Right.
In a positive way? Do you want to work and move?
Yeah.
And are you willing to give up things?
Yeah.
To move forward. If you're not willing to give up things that are important to you to move forward, it's not going to go forward, because everybody grows up with a paradigm from their family.
Mm-hmm.
And what's normal for some families is quite chaotic for another family.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're not willing to give up some of your something, in any negotiation, you have to give up something.
Yep. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so you've got this couple. You started talking to them. They've started talking to each other. And you've seen some of the issues. In the circle thing that we talk about the act and getting down to that. And I don't know if this is a long period of time that you're talking with this person or this couple or not. But, and I don't know if we're going to talk about how it gets resolved in the end. But what little tiny progress you make, they're still going home together, and they're still going to be potentially getting right back into it, and then you have to start over each time.
Right.
Is that a fair statement?
Well, they're either living in separate parts of the house or they're separated, usually. And with those couples, I know that any contact they have outside the session is probably going to be counterproductive, and they'll quickly go back and reinforce the old dance 3 times over to erase anything that they learned at the session. And so, realizing that, I have spoken with couples in that situation, said, understand that in order to learn how to communicate differently, you have to do what we're doing in this session more than you do it the old way. So what's it going to take for you not to do the old dance, to not go back and rehearse the reactive, blaming, toxic interchange that you're used to? What'll it take? And ask them. They got to own this thing. I'm not going to go babysit them after the session. So there has to be an honest discussion about that, because you're right. If they practice the old way to reinforce it, they're never going to adopt a different way of communicating. So
I just tell people, if you do it once out of 10 times, that's better than 0.
yeah,
You're not
for sure.
You're not going to be good at this, but I think the research shows that couples who stay together probably have a better chance of making it, even if they're in conflict. Because if you're in conflict with somebody and you get rid of them, it's like good riddance. I'm just.
Yep, they were the problem, and now I'm good.
Yeah.
But you take everything you learned from that to the next relationship, and it's like, okay, let's go.
So it's a false sense of peace. So
Right.
if they have to struggle it out, and also you have usually kids involved and things like that, and there's much more that they're never disengaged.
Right.
It's not like you can just leave this person. No, you're always dancing with them.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of couples will say the best thing you ever told me was just stay together. And so that's it. I just tell them, hey, if you do it once, it's better than nothing. You know, maybe in a month or two, you'll do it 2 times out of 10. And that gives a more realistic goal. But if couples can stay together, they have a much better chance in
That's generally true.
in most situations. And I like to ask them, how do you feel? I noticed some progress. How does that make you feel? Because then they own it.
Right.
It's not your putting on them that you got a B for this or you got an A. But how did you feel? And how did it feel looking in your spouse's eyes? You know, so that's, they get their feelings, and then that's becomes the motivator, not my critique of it.
Right, right. Yep. So let's do a little role play here. And if you do you still have your same groups here that you had before, the groups of 3? If not, maybe remix a little bit. But what I'd like you to do this time is this is going to be more of an exercise for the facilitator, because I want 2 of you to be the couple, and you know, I want you to really portray this dysfunctional, toxic relationship, and give the facilitator a chance to really practice some patience and redirecting. Okay?
What did you hear, honey?
Okay.
I'm gonna blame you for that.
I mean, let the facilitator, you know, give him a chance, but really give him a challenge. Okay.
My wife is a wimp.
There's no trust in our relationship whatsoever.
The court will not release jurisdiction of a divorce once it's got it.
Now I know why some people don't get divorced.
The whole area of family law needs to get out of the court system altogether.
That bike is sexy. Growing up, I was living a lie. In the darkness, I was scared of the light. With no direction, I was running away. I tried to cover that I'm losing my mind. Now it's over. I wonder, yeah. A new beginning, it's a new way of life. Another chapter, why not give it a try? This hopeful journey needs an open mind to discover the treasure inside. I'm The clouds are running away. I can see the colors every day. Walked away from the fire, and now I'm living in grace. You never know the world until you open your eyes. Never see the truth until you look past the lies. Mother Nature is waiting for you to arrive. Step by side, step by side. Enjoy the ride. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do, 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 do.
So Michelle is going to leave us with the Family Innocence theme song. We know it's going to be catching on everywhere. So take it away, Michelle.
And I won't have my husband Tom sing with me this time.
Or me.
You guys are all blessed.
Okay. Camera. Start spreading the bird, beginning today. We want to be no part of it, the family court. The bird is the word. It's flying away to make a brand new start of it. No family court. We want to wake up in a household where we can sleep instead of fearing a judge ready to peep. These family court blows are melting away. We will get to the heart of it with no delay. If we can do it here, we'll do it everywhere. No family court, no family court. One more line. If it is not a crime, we are not doing time in family court. No family court.
Hollywood, really talk.